Hello, my name is Dominic Paget, and today we will be exploring what contributes to high academic achievement in African Americans from two perspectives in psychology, one being cultural and the other being cognitive. Now let's begin with our first perspective, culture. Different cultures view and perceive things in their own way due to their prior experiences or interactions, which can differ from other groups. I think that it is important to think about culture from a standpoint of what it does for the group, meaning that the group passes down information from generation to generation that has seemed to work and allowed that culture to thrive and progress in that environment. In the United States, you generally cannot talk about culture without mentioning acculturation, which is the assimilation of one culture into another culture. In this reference, it is the minority culture to the majority culture, due to the melting pot mentality that has been adopted by the United States. Acculturation is an important topic in the conversation of academic achievement because the school system is an institution that every child must encounter when they enter the United States. Don't worry, we'll be sure to talk about the implications of this in future slides. The second perspective that we will be using to discuss the topic of high academic achievement in African Americans is from the area of cognition. In the public education system, a great deal of responsibility is placed upon the student to learn and understand the coursework during the instructional period. Yet, research has shown that the instructors play a much greater role in terms of academic achievement, not just by being the educator, but by allowing the stigmas and stereotypes that they believe to be true about the student and the group in which they come from to affect the level and teaching style and engagement that they use to teach and tutor said students. How does acculturation affect high academic achievement in the African American community? Acculturation has been known to affect academic achievement in both positive and negative ways. Some studies have shown that when an individual is subject to acculturation voluntarily, the assimilation can lead to positive outcomes. Yet, when acculturation is brought about involuntarily, the individual can potentially develop an oppositional identity towards that institution. Now, when speaking about African Americans and acculturation, those that fully assimilate into the mainstream culture are considered as acting white, and in a way, shunned from the group. While some would say acting white is a bad thing, others would say it offers a duality in the consciousness. This duality in consciousness is believed to have derived from a successful assimilation into the mainstream culture from a minority culture. In terms of academic achievement, this gives the individual the ability to adapt to the teaching style that the instructor has, whether it be working alone on an in-class assignment or while working as a group to learn the information together. In my opinion, since the United States is an individualistic society that values independent traits, adaptability is a cornerstone of being independent. Therefore, acculturation of the African American student is detrimental to high academic achievement by way of gaining this dual consciousness. Now let us look at cognitive factors that pertain to high academic achievement in the African American community. The instructor bias would be considered an inhibitor or a barrier of high academic achievement. And this is not always done on purpose, but it starts first as the instructor recognizing the student as either part of their in-group or out-group. If the student is a part of the in-group and does poorly, the instructor may attribute this to situational causes. Yet, if the student is a part of the out-group, the instructor would attribute this failure as dispositional. Being recognized as part of the instructor's outgroup leads the students to be associated with the stereotypes and stigmas that are associated to that outgroup. Those stigmas and stereotypes that the instructors believe to be true then affects the level of engagement the students may receive when asking for help in tutoring. In qualitative studies, it has been recorded that students have the ability to recognize when the instructor is not engaged in what they are teaching and or tutoring, and thus the student's interest in learning the material lessens. An example I like to use to help understand the in-group and out-group level of engagement concept is, say you have a math teacher that is known to have a difficult class he spends more time and energy tutoring a European male after doing poorly on an exam due to the believed situational cause, as opposed to an African American woman in which he believes that women are not as good as men at math and science. Thus, when she does poorly on the exam, it is lightly brushed off and a statement is made like, "It is okay, plenty of people don't get it, just keep trying." And then he leaves her to her own to learn the material or ask a classmate. Let us now speak about the self-fulfilling prophecy. While in some aspects of life, such as working your everyday job or on a behavioral change, the outcome of the prophecy is not so guaranteed due to other factors such as how much you like your job or why you're going to that job, or what behavior you're trying to change or why you're trying to change that behavior. Yet, in the academic setting, this is a known contributor of academic achievement because those bias that we spoke about before are now being internalized by the student and changing the way that they view themselves due to the fact that essentially the instructor is looked at as a gatekeeper or a subject matter expert of the material. Now, the self-fulfilling prophecy in the academic setting can be a two-way street. If the instructor believes that the student can do well and shows high level of engagement when tutoring and interacting with the student will then rise to the educator's expectations. Now, this concept also works inversely and is noted to be associated with affecting the student's perceived ability to learn and understand the material. Now, what does this mean? To minimize some of these barriers that are experienced by African Americans, we should recognize the experience that they go through, like difficulties assimilating, and when assimilated, watch out for other students, a part of his or her in-group, telling the individual that they are acting white. Instead, we should recognize that as a benefit that they can use later down the road in their academic career or in a work setting. It also means that instructors should be informed to be aware of their own bias that they may carry into the classroom and encourage them to challenge those bias due to the positive effects that they can have on academic achievement and believe all students can achieve great things. By doing this, it could positively affect the instructor's levels of engagement when encountering someone they hold bias towards, thus promoting positive interactions towards those from their outgroup and lowering the student's perceived inability to learn the material. Other interesting finds are many studies have shown that external support systems are also a contributor to high academic achievement in the African American community. Interestingly enough, the educator, along with immediate family and community members, are noted for being a strong social source of support. Even though the studies speaking about the harmful effects of the instructor's bias can have on the student, they are recognized also as being a strong source of support which can lead to high academic achievement. Also, there have been alternative teaching methods that have been tailored and noted to help African Americans achieve highly in academic settings, such as computer-assisted learning with specific guidelines, employing the use of higher order thinking programs, which also employs the use of computers. This program helps the students think about problems in a Socratic way while stimulating language and development. And lastly, using student team learning. This I found interesting because it draws its basis from the African American community being rooted in a collectivistic culture. Thus, it is up to the team to help each other learn the material, and all students will be graded and assessed in accordance to those on their level in the class or those progressing at the same speed as them. In conclusion, high academic achievement is not bound by race and ethnicity, but instead, in my opinion, lies in the hands of the environment and the instructor. I believe that a good start for change would be eliminating the stigma associated with high academic achievement in the African American community, as well as recognizing that due to acculturation, the dual consciousness that comes along with acting white should be further explored and studied to see how the characteristics in African Americans hold out later in life. As for the bias instructors may have, I do recognize that it is very difficult to change a person's bias, and from a behavioral standpoint, it will be due to their prior experiences. But What we can teach is how to react in the face of said bias. Though I do recognize overcoming this bias will be considered a barrier in itself, but I do believe that this would assist in minimalizing the student's perceived lack of ability to learn and understand the material while teaching other coping strategies in order to still be able to overcome the adversity.